The rain hadn't stopped all afternoon. It was one of those spring days in Michigan where the clouds sat low and gray like a blanket pulled tight across the sky. I sat on the porch swing, my feet tucked under me, my hoodie pulled up against the chill. My name is Evan Carter, and I had just turned 19 a few weeks ago. It was supposed to be a milestone, freedom, maybe even excitement, but it felt hollow. Dad had passed away 6 months earlier. A heart attack, sudden and silent. I still remembered the way the world tilted that morning, how everything seemed to slow down while my mind raced. The worst part wasn't even the funeral. It was the quiet afterward, the lack of his voice echoing through the house, the missing footsteps coming down the stairs, the empty chair at the dinner table. That's when she stepped in, Marissa, my stepmom. She'd been married to Dad for 7 years. I'd never called her Mom, not once. We were polite, sometimes even close. But after Dad died, something shifted. The barrier we had kept politely intact began to dissolve. Not in a strange way, just human. Grief does that. It breaks walls down whether you want it to or not. I heard the screen door creak behind me. "You've been out here for an hour, Evan," she said softly, her voice like a warm coat in the cold. "You'll catch a cold." I shrugged. I like the rain. It matches my mood. She didn't laugh, but I could see the corner of her mouth pull up slightly. "Well, I brought you tea. Chamomile, like you like it." She sat beside me, offering the cup. Our fingers touched briefly. Just a touch. But it was warm. Not electric, not dramatic. Just warm. "Thanks," I mumbled, taking a sip. We sat in silence for a while, just listening to the rain tapping on the tin roof. She leaned back, closing her eyes. I noticed how tired she looked lately. Not from age. Marissa was only in her late 30s, but from carrying grief like a backpack full of bricks. I wondered if anyone ever asked her how she was holding up. "You okay?" I asked. She opened her eyes, startled for a second by the question. Then she gave a faint nod. "Some days. Not today, I guess." "Yeah," I murmured. "Me neither." It wasn't a therapy session. It wasn't some huge breakthrough. But it was the first time we'd acknowledged the weight we both were dragging behind us like chains. And it started there, with a touch, a cup of tea, and a shared silence. Over the next few weeks, our dynamic shifted. Slowly, naturally. I started helping her around the house more. She'd cook, I'd clean. I'd fix something, and she'd sit nearby reading or humming to music. It was easy. Easier than I expected it to be. One night, she knocked on my door. I was up late, scrolling through photos on my phone. Photos of Dad. My throat tightened. Marissa peeked in. "Hey," she said. "I heard you moving around. Couldn't sleep." I shook my head. She stepped in and sat on the edge of the bed. She glanced at my phone and saw the picture. It was Dad on the beach, his arms out wide like he was about to fly. She smiled faintly. "He loved that trip," she whispered. I nodded. I still smell the salt water when I close my eyes. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Again, just a touch. But this one held 1,000 unspoken words. She didn't cry. Neither did I. But the silence between us said everything. That night became a new kind of normal. We'd sit together in the evenings sometimes. Talk about Dad. Laugh at his bad jokes. Share our favorite memories. She told me things I never knew, that he used to sneak out at midnight just to bring her ice cream during her stressful work weeks, or how he cried quietly when I got my driver's license, because he realized I was growing up. I started seeing Dad not just as my dad, but as her husband, her partner, her best friend. One night, maybe a month later, we were both in the kitchen trying to fix the leaky faucet. Marissa was under the sink, fiddling with the pipe while I held the flashlight. "I swear, this house is falling apart," she groaned. "You sure you don't want to call a plumber?" "Nah. I watched a tutorial. How hard can it be?" I chuckled. Famous last words. She laughed, a real laugh, the kind that caught in her throat and spilled out unfiltered. I hadn't heard that sound in so long. When she sat up, she bumped her head and winced. I instinctively reached out, placing a hand on her back to steady her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, rubbing her head. "Yeah. Just got cocky." We locked eyes, and something in the room shifted. Not romance, not anything forbidden. Just understanding. A recognition of two people trying their best to keep going. "Thanks, Evan," she said. "For being here. For not shutting me out." "I should be thanking you," I said. "You could have shut me out too." She looked at me for a long moment. "But I didn't. Because you matter to me." That night, I went to bed with a different kind of ache. Not sadness, but something gentler. Like healing. Like maybe we were both learning to be whole again. Weeks turned into months. The seasons changed. I got a part-time job at a local bookstore. Marissa went back to teaching art at the community center. Life didn't return to what it was, but it moved forward. Sometimes that's all you can hope for. One afternoon, I came home to find her painting in the sunroom. She was working on a canvas that featured a blurry ocean horizon and a shadowy figure standing at the edge, arms wide. "Is that Dad?" I asked. She smiled. "Yeah. But it's also us. Standing on the edge of something, deciding whether to move forward." I nodded. "I like that." She dabbed her brush in blue and added a splash of sky. "You ever think about how everything that's happened between us started with the smallest things? A cup of tea. A shared joke. A touch on the shoulder." "Yeah," I said. "It started with a touch. And you helped me heal." She paused, looking up at me with eyes full of warmth. "And you helped me too, Evan. More than you know." In that moment, I realized something powerful. Family isn't always about blood. It's about showing up. About carrying someone's grief when they're too tired to hold it. It's about building new bridges when old ones fall. Marissa and I had become a kind of family that no one else would fully understand. But it was real. And it was strong. Years later, I moved out and into my own place. We still met for coffee every Sunday. We still talked about Dad sometimes, laughing, remembering. And whenever people asked me who the most important woman in my life was, I never hesitated. "My stepmom," I'd say. She helped me heal when I didn't know how. And it all started with a touch.